Okay, Gabby, so we're talking about your kitchen written assignment. We're going to talk about your reflective statement first, and then we're going to look at the essay, okay? After I go over it with you, I'll show you the scores that I think it would get. All right, so the big thing is to kind of emphasize, like you do here, the interactive oral we learned, or in the interactive oral I taught. Did you present in one of these for kitchen?
I did. Yeah, I did kitchen.
Which area did you do?
Characters.
Characters? Okay. So it's perfectly okay to say I presented on characters and talk about what you shared, especially if that's I think it's important. The real, yeah, like you do here, the meaning behind the names. You can say for the interactive oral, I presented on the importance of names.
Okay.
And the importance of names in kitchen. Really emphasizing that this is what you learned in the interactive oral. The very most important focus is the reflection on the learning process and what you did or learned as a class, rather than necessarily summarizing or focusing on the book itself. Okay. I would almost recommend that you break these 4 cultural changes into 4 separate little paragraphs, and for each one just start it with we learned in the oral, or you can even give a student's name, so and so discussed, and you can reference your notes and be specific about the details that you got out of the oral. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what the examiners want to see, because then when we get to the actual essay, that's when they want to see the analysis. Okay. All right. All right. So we're talking about the characterization of Yuichi, and I really like your introduction. It's short, it's concise, and it's a good start. I think maybe once we get to the end of the essay, and we'll go there in a second, we want to see how he's being characterized, not just the words, and maybe why that's important, this change. And then finally, I would suggest that you include the next change, really, because he comes out of that with Eriko's help, just like Yuichi brings Eriko out of depression and sadness. I'm sorry, Mikage.
Yeah.
Thank you. I could see the look on your face. You're like, you're wrong. Just like Yuichi brings Mikage out, Mikage brings Yuichi out, I think. Helps him. And that gives us more to say than just he was relaxed, nice and warm, and then he becomes thinner, drunk, and terribly sad. Okay? Because the points get awarded to get from the 2-3 in that knowledge and understanding, and that 2-3 in the appreciation of author's choices. We have to move beyond the kind of summarizational, observational, kind of pointing things out, to making a claim as to why it's important and how the author does it. The claim why you think it's important. It might not be right or 100%, but if your evidence is consistent and your presentation is consistent, then it's okay. You're still going to get good marks. Okay? All right. So I think that's the most important consideration. I'm not sure, but it would also be wonderful. You could even start, maybe even in the introduction, you could introduce Yuichi's name. You know, Yoshimoto, you know, begins our understanding of this person simply with his name being generous. In contrast to Mikage, which means surrounded by death. Wow. Right? Talk about subtle foreshadowing, right? I mean, typecasting kind of thing. And in some ways, it's ironic even that his generosity, when it kind of shrivels up, when he withdraws after Eriko's death into his drunkenness, that's when he's least generous. He's least generous to himself. He's least generous to others. You know, you could call it self-absorbed. You could call it selfish. But it is ironic that his name is generous, and yet he's not at that low point in his life. So I'm just trying to throw out some ways, some topics for you to organize this so that it's not just focused on the nice, relaxed, warm. Does that make sense? Okay. I think really that's primarily it in terms of what I'd like to see. Some of this is not going to make it into your next draft if you were to revise this. If this is the one you want to revise, because if we just focus on the characterization of Yuichi, the name, and maybe just use the name as kind of that centerpiece of generosity, and kind of go from initially meeting Mikage, generous, Eriko's death, not generous, self-absorbed, withdrawn, and then through Mikage's generosity, perhaps, to him, showing him that generosity back, they have that, his characterization comes full circle. And I see that as almost a motif, this repetition, this cycling through of, you know, it's not like it's a straight line where we begin, we're bad and we end up good, or we start bad and end up good. It's, we go through life and we're gonna have, you know, there's gonna be highs and lows, you know. Mikage starts really low through her time with the Tanabes. She really comes out of it, and she's doing really well at the cooking school and thinking everything is fine until she learns that Eriko's dead, and now she's brought down. But she's not as low as Yuichi, and part of what we see is that her development helps pull.
Okay.
It's almost like, when two people are hurt or injured, but the person who's the least hurt is gonna, kind of shrug off their pain to try and help somebody else, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that analogy works. All right, cool. So, here's your scores. For the reflective statement, that's pretty easy to move that to a 3, just like I said, with more specific details. And then these scores, not bad, but could definitely move into higher marks pretty easily with more focus on the why. Why is it important, this characterization of Yuichi, rather than just the showing? And I mean, the reason these scores are as high as they are is because you do make some references to the tone. You do some very nice analysis of some of the quotes, this epicenter of death. I mean, you're definitely moving in the right direction, but to really move it up there into the higher mark range,
Okay.
that's what we need to do.
Okay.
Okay, any questions for me?
Mm-mm.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to give you this. Oh, dang it.